buddy. Thank you. That's what we say to you. It's your graduation tomorrow night? Thursday evening? We're going to be there. Yeah. I'm doing Trinity and Wheatmore tomorrow. 1-6, 1-3. Good afternoon. I think we was all just having so much fun talking and laughing. It's 6 o'clock, so it's time for us to call to order this first meeting of June. It is also our first meeting tonight to officially receive the county budget, the proposed budget for 21-22. And we thank all of you for being here. And for those of you that are Zoomed in tonight, you will notice that we're all back in our usual places, and we've removed all the blue tape from the pews here in the courthouse, and things are looking more normal than they have for the last 15 months or so. And for all of you that have endured that process with us, we thank you. And for all you folks at home who have I guess maybe gotten a little more usual to the virtual meetings, maybe you'll want to come in person to attend our meeting. So we thank you, and we will open this meeting tonight, and we will receive the budget. So I'm going to call on County Manager Hal Johnson to officially present the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in accordance with North Carolina law, the county manager and the county finance officer are required to present to the Board of County Commissioners and the citizens of Randolph County a proposed balanced budget for the fiscal year 21-2022. The law requires that the budget ordinance be adopted by July the 1st, 2021. This is also the beginning of a process that will lead to adoption of a final budget after review and consideration by the county commissioners. The total proposed budget is $143,402,144. The budget is balanced. It maintains services at necessary levels to address our most urgent needs. The proposed budget is financially sustainable. No increase in property tax is recommended in the proposed budget. The county tax rate remains at 0.6327. Tonight, in addition to the introduction to the proposed 21-22 county budget, we will hear presentations from the Asheboro City Schools, Randolph County Schools, and Randolph Community College. On June the 10th, budget presentations will be heard from our county departments, and on June the 14th, you will consider requests from community agencies and our volunteer fire departments. A public hearing is also scheduled for June the 14th. Final review and adoption of final county budget is scheduled for Monday, June the 21st. No Board of Commissioners in the history of Randolph County has had to address as many critical issues at one time as this Board of Commissioners. Multiple capital improvement projects to enhance education, county services, emergency services expansion and capabilities, courthouse facilities, law enforcement and the evolving needs of our detention center, the expanding demands on social services and public health, employee turnover, training and recruitment of professional staff, economic development challenges, the opioid addiction crisis, and the public health and economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is my 7th budget as your county manager. Every budget has brought its special challenges, but the past year of COVID-19 pandemic has brought unique challenges. Last spring, when developing the current year's budget, our expectations were that there would be significant economic negative impact from the pandemic. The federal stimulus funds boosted the local economy through increased sales tax. As a result, our budget remained strong beyond the negative assumptions due to the pandemic. Our budgetary challenge this year is to again anticipate uncertainty in the economy. We do not yet know if the positive economic impact of federal stimulus funding will have its desired effects, or if the economy will suffer a decline after federal stimulus funding ends. Our challenge is to prepare for any eventuality. Under the recently passed American Rescue Plan federal legislation, Randolph County is expected to receive over $27 million from this recovery fund. No part of this allocation is included in the general fund proposed budget because the recovery program is designed to provide short-term financial resources for local governments. Again, our challenge is not to create long-term budget instability when the stimulus funding is over. Decisions on the best use of this assistance should be determined outside of the annual budget process. Another crisis facing our county is the uncertainty of Randolph Hospital as it moves through bankruptcy and ultimate sale. The county was recently approved by the Local Government Commission to obtain a $12 million loan through the Rural Health Care Stabilization Fund. This would allow the county to provide financial assistance to Randolph Hospital for capital improvements and equipment updates. Although there are several options, no final decision has been made on how to pay for the debt service anticipated to be over $1 million per year for 12 years. During the budget process, our department heads will update the board on their operations and the pressures that they are facing. There were 35 new positions requested by county departments in this year's budget. Due to budget constraints, the proposed budget includes costs for 9 new positions. Primarily, the focus was on public safety, child protection services, internet crimes against children, and county operations. The proposed budget has 887 full-time and 26 part-time allocated positions. The following new positions are funded in the proposed budget. Social services, a social worker with child protection services, an assistant director for social work. In emergency services, 3 paramedics, which would allow the completion of the 12-hour shift that we have put in place beginning a couple of years ago. The sheriff's office, 1 detective to be allocated to internet crimes against children. Building inspections is a code enforcement specialist that would work with citizens as they provide on the internet their applications and plans, which would reduce time and make it more convenient for our citizens. Information technology is an information specialist that would work primarily in the security of our computer system within the county. And finally, in administration, we're asking for a media specialist to help get information out to the public about the operations of county government. Our county depends upon qualified staff to carry out its responsibilities. We've fallen behind many local governments since we updated our classification study just a couple of years ago. The proposed budget includes a 3% market adjustment, which includes a cost of living adjustment so that we can remain competitive with adjoining local governments. A total of $4,348,277 in capital outlay equipment was requested in this budget. Due to budget constraints, we are recommending 2 replacement ambulances and a sheriff's vehicle connected to the Internet Crimes Against Children detective. Total capital outlay recommended in the budget is $598,649. As part of this recommended budget, we have provided the county commissioners with some additional funding options that the board, as the process develops through this month, that the board might consider if additional capital outlay or staffing requests are considered for final approval. And now County Finance Officer Will Massey will present a more detailed review of the county budget along with what was requested by our departments. He'll review revenues and expenditures of the county.
Good evening, Commissioners. Last year, we used this slide to kind of demonstrate the uncertainty that we were facing, with the COVID crisis. Didn't know how long this was going to last, didn't know how much it was going to affect the local economy. We had just come out of stay-at-home orders, and businesses and individuals were suffering. So this was the image that we created or we used last year. We're in a sort of a different position this year in that COVID finally is starting to pass away. We've got the vaccinations going on, and there's quite a bit of stimulus money. And what we didn't want to do was to overuse the effects of the stimulus money on our sales tax, property taxes, and some other things. There's bubbles that are going to build. There's going to be some trends that aren't sustainable. And what we wanted to do with this budget was to limit what we thought we were going to get and not overdo on our revenue estimates so that we had a sustainable budget when that money goes away. So the image for this year was we don't want to build a budget on what we think is stable and it's not stable. So the theme of the budget is we're not going to budget the bubbles. We're going to talk about some of these, but we didn't want to rely on revenues that are only temporary. So property taxes is our #1 revenue source. It includes real estate and personal property. We went to a 4-year reval, so our next reval is January of '23, so it's the '23-24 budget that we'll be using that for. The property tax levy, tax department has given us a value of $11,981,000, which is about a 1.2% increase. With the tax rate maintained and the collection rate at 99%, that gives us a levy of $75,045,749. 1 cent on the tax rate provides a little over $1.1 million. This is the chart that will show some of the trends in our property tax, where we're seeing some of the growth. It's pretty even across the board. I'll talk a little bit more about motor vehicles shortly. Our principal taxpayers stayed the same top 10, and it's pretty much the same order here too. You'll have some of these industries that are investing in new equipment, and some is just being depreciated every year. So it varies a little bit each year, but you can see Mom Brands, they're in a depreciation mode, whereas Technomark and Duke Energy did some major increases. So motor vehicles, when COVID hit, General Assembly allowed individuals to postpone their registration renewals until September, so we knew that there would be quite a bit of that, and so that's the bubble that you see there in September where it jumped up. That's not any new revenue, it just delayed some from last year. When you get to March and April, you see it's jumped up again, and that's probably a number of factors. The second round of stimulus came out. You had income tax refunds that are starting to go out, and the demand for used vehicles is up, so the value's up. So this might be a little bubble if used motor vehicle values go down in a year or two. Sales tax, we've done pretty well this year. I think the stimulus money to individuals, to businesses, unemployment, all that's affected consumer confidence, and so our sales tax have been about 13% above last year. Not what we thought when we did this budget last year. For 21-22, we're projecting a 10% growth in this year to finish out and 4% growth for next year. Those are pretty much in line with what the General Assembly's or the State Office of Budget Management projections were. We've added a full $2.9 million in Medicaid hold harmless collections, and we continue to split Article 46 between the Capital Reserve and RCC. You can see from this chart that the red pie square represents local option sales tax, and it's gone from around 20% to now it's about 25%. Property taxes are pretty stable, but the more you start to rely on local option sales tax, the more that's going to vary based on economic conditions. If you hit a recession, if we get inflation, higher taxes, whatever it might be. And we just wanted to point that out. So I'm going to very briefly go over some of the things that were not funded in the department request. The manager mentioned what was in there, and I'm just going to briefly cover what's not. And then when departments meet with you on that Thursday, I think it's the 11th, then they can explain further what these needs are. So administration has one additional position that's requested. That's in human resources. Information technology needed another position for public safety software. Tax department wanted one part-time position. Public buildings, 2 full-time positions with additional buildings we've picked up. Sheriff had 4 full-time positions that were not funded in the proposed budget. And we'll talk about replacement vehicles. To do what we had as priorities in the proposed budget, we had to postpone, I believe, what we have for our replacement vehicles. And those 27 replacement vehicles for the sheriff were in that pot. And then certain operating costs. Just did want to point out that due to a change in how the sheriff's office, business office wanted to handle the automotive costs, that they pulled money out of their normal automotive cost in each of their divisions and consolidated those into one account for ease of processing the invoices. There's not any new money, it's just moving the dollars that they already had. Emergency services had an additional 13 full-time positions requested and a certain number of other capital requests, including 2 more ambulances, some additional replacement vehicles, and mobile radios. And I'll talk about those more in a minute.
And Will, when you say 2 more ambulances, that's 2 more than the 2 that's already in the
There's 2 in the proposed budget, and he asked for 4.
So he asked for 4.
That's correct. Animal services needed to replace a vehicle, as did Adult Day Reporting Center. Planning and zoning wanted an administrative assistant. Cooperative Extension wanted an SUV. And social services had 3 additional full-time positions in the Foster area.
And on cooperative extension, that would be all on us, not, the state does not participate in that.
It would be us to provide that. So, as I mentioned, we did not fund replacement vehicles. And if you just pull those out of the other capital requests, you're talking about, 2.1 or so, but that included some additional positions for the sheriff's office So including the setup for the 27, you're talking about just about $2 million of replacement vehicles from what we already have. And certainly, vehicles are a necessary tool that most of these departments need to do the services that are required. When we joined the Viper system a few years ago, we had to upgrade all the mobile radios. And we've been informed that those radios will reach the end of life, I believe, in 2024. So it's not immediate, but we need to start talking about a plan to fund all these replacement radios. It's for the sheriff, animal services, emergency services, and the health department. So that's about 2.4. We can decide how we want to pay for that, whether we can split it up over a couple of years. But that's something I think we want to look at from a countywide perspective and not just fund some departments and then other departments later. We just need to have a plan. So our recommendation is to consider over the next few weeks and months. It's sort of what we did last year is we postponed the capital outlay until we saw how the fiscal year end that we're in right now kind of worked out. But in June of 2020, we had $37 million of available fund balance, which is about 29% of general fund expenditures. $6 million was available for capital. That's in accordance with our debt or our fiscal policy, which says anything over 24 is committed for capital improvements. So we did $2 million of that for the courthouse project, $2 million for Northgate renovations, and then we're going to use another $2 million for the vehicles that were bought in this current fiscal year. If we've made that up, then that might be available for us to use for these other vehicles that were not in the proposed budget. Education, pretty good portion of our budget each year. The average daily membership declined about 3%. I think that might be another bubble. We'll have to wait and see, if people kept their kids home and homeschooled them, but they're going to go back to public schools in a year or two. We'll just have to wait and see. The shift between the county schools and the city schools, again, moved some money to the city, $31,000 for current expense, and $3,500 or $3,300 for the capital. The money we've been giving to the schools for their facility improvements, $350,000 for Ashburn City and $850 for Randolph County Schools, is still in the proposed budget. Community college, $2.6 for current, $402 for capital, and then we will continue to transfer $500,000 of the Article 46 to their capital project, so they can build that up for their, I think, renovations are coming. So in total, education is about 23.4% of the total budget, and that's not including the debt service on the schools. So debt service, when we escalated the timing of our capital projects a few years ago, this was the year that was going to hurt the most. This is why we set money aside in the capital reserve, because we'll have to transfer $2.2 million from the reserve back to the general fund to help cover these the debt service costs. Because in the current year we were $13 million, and this is for next year is going to take us up to about $18 million. But there's no tax increase because we set money aside in the capital reserve, as we planned. As the manager mentioned, the rural healthcare stabilization loan has been approved. Don't know exactly how quickly they'll move on that, but there's about $1.1 million of principal and interest that will be due that first year. So we need to decide how that would be covered if we move forward on that. Public School Building Capital Fund, right now it's just the lottery monies. That's stabilized. It was down somewhat this past year, but it's picked back up again. School District Tax Fund, Archdale Trinity School District is asking for the 9.22 cent rate to be maintained, and Ashburn City School Tax District, the 14.39 to be maintained. As far as the fire districts, there's 7 departments that are requesting an increase in their fire district rates. You see those listed here. They'll present their budgets and their requests on that one evening. We have a whole lot more of annual funds that budgeted. The emergency telephone system fund's been out there for a while. We got notified on Friday afternoon that the preliminary number that the 911 board was going to be gracious and give us is now about $3,300 or $3,600 less. So we'll have to adjust the budget that last meeting in June and kind of fix that fund. But you see the other ones listed. Some of these are new, and some of them same old cast of characters.
To adjust that, were we going to get an increase, we're just going to get less, or is this actually less than we got last year?
Less than what they had projected. So the proposed budget is built on a certain number that they had, and the final number is less than that. So,
But it's still a little bit more than last year?
I don't recall whether it was a little bit more or a little bit less. So our proposed budget, the document itself will be on our website, should be there by tomorrow. So my final comment would be for strategic planning. We've been setting aside the lease revenue from the landfill, both for capital reserve and for some other strategic planning initiatives, primarily health and well-being. We did the $1 million a year for the capital reserve for 3 years. I think we'll free that up so that the whole amount would be available for 21, 22 for discussion purposes, whether it's all well-being or something else. Any questions on the budget presentation before I turn it over to the schools?
Any questions from anybody?
Well, I know we're maybe a little way down the road on that, but on the radio replacement, would any of the COVID, the American Relief Act, or the American Relief Plan, would any of those funds be applicable to something like that?
You have to tie that money directly to a need based on COVID, that COVID has done something to you and you need those funds to make it whole. Now, there may be some workarounds or something if that's a plan for us.
When it says for public purpose, that's not restricted to COVID? I mean, if it's for a public purpose?
Well, everything has to be for a public purpose, but what the Treasury guidelines really narrow it down. In a lot of cases, they're saying it needs to be tied to COVID. There's reporting that needs to be done when you're spending the money to say, how did you spend the money and how was it related to COVID? So, part of the discussion over the next couple of months is going to be what's the best use of that money and how can we make it work for us?
Would you go back one slide for me, please? Thank you.
All right, we will now hear from our Asheboro City Schools. Dr. Woody? Sandra? Thank all of you for being here tonight.
Dr. Woody.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Fry and members of the County Commissioners. Just a wonderful opportunity to come together tonight, share our proposed budget. I know, Mr. Fry, you did just recognize Sandra, but our finance officer, Sandra Spivey, is with us.
Yes.
Our board vice chair, Baxter Hammer, is also with us this evening, so I appreciate them literally having my back this evening. But again, a great opportunity this evening to come before you, talk about planning and talk about budgeting. And as I'm learning, as we're learning, and as you know, our budget can be our primary policy driver for really everything that we do. So hopefully tonight, as we lift up some things, you'll see that we continue to have ambitious and bold visions for Asheboro City Schools. I did spend the day today, part of my day, I visited 4 of our 5 elementary schools where we held 5th grade celebrations and school celebrations for the end of the year. And I talked to the kids about a couple things. I just want to mention that. I told the kids, students, we've had a tough year. It's been very challenging. It's been like no other in the history of American public education. But we exist, we thrive because of our students. Schools exist for students. They don't exist for adults to have jobs. But our jobs and our work and our service is really about student outcomes. So I told them that. And the second thing I did, I just shared a quote with them that's meant a lot to me lately. It's from St. Augustine. It's a very old quote. But we've tried to be hopeful this year. And his quote was, hope has 2 daughters, anger and courage. And we want to be hopeful, right? And we've wanted to be hopeful all year this year with the global pandemic. And I would say it's been okay. We've all felt a sense of anger, of frustration, of hurt, of anxiety, of the challenges and all the emotions associated with trying to strike a balance in our county and our city school and our districts about serving students. And I appreciate the fact that, and what he says, anger is the frustration that things are the way they are. And courage is the willingness to believe things won't always stay that way. So we want to be courageous. We've challenged our students to be courageous. We've challenged our staff all year. I've tried to challenge myself in the quietness of my own heart when I pull into my parking space each morning and think, I got to give myself a pep talk. And I know you've done that too. And I just say, as we hopefully move out of COVID, as we move out of this challenge, we're going to face other challenges. And I hope that we will be hopeful and that it'll be okay from time to time to have those bouts of emotion. But having a plan, a bold vision, will certainly help us to be courageous. So thank you for giving me a chance just to preach a little bit this evening. I did share with you a couple things I wanted to lift up before we actually get into our budget presentation. I shared with you, each of you, a folder here just of a couple items. And as you open that up, you see my message, our district message for our budget and our budget request. And certainly you've had some of this information in front of you, so I'm not going to ask you to read it. But really, it just talks about our budget serving as a bold policy measure about what we believe about students, what we believe about staff. On the right side of your folder is a strategic planning update. And both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Massey talked about strategic planning, and I wanted to lift up to you that, again, we've, as a school district, been courageous through this time of not just sitting and trying to respond to COVID. We've tried to lead. We've tried to be strategic in our thinking about plans moving forward. Obviously, about our high school capital project that I'll talk to you about later tonight. About our vision for technology and innovation and access and engagement and diversity and equity and so many things. But as you just flip through this, it just gives you an idea of where we are with our vision and mission, what we want to be about with our values as a school district. And we're going to ask you over the next couple months to be part of some forums and part of some opportunities where we can continue to lift up where we want to go as a school district and what we want to be about with our strategic plan. One of the things I'm excited to lift up to you tonight, because and already we've heard some information about the American Relief Act, and for schools it's ESSER, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and we want to kind of debunk or demystify some of the thoughts that are out there publicly about, wow, we heard Asheboro City Schools get $15 million. Are they going to get T-shirts for all the kids? What are they going to do? So we put together a one-pager, and that's in here in your folder, to just lift up, we are accountable for those federal dollars. It's very clear about what we can and cannot do with those monies. And what we've tried to do in this one pager is to help you, to help our board, to help community members as we're out in the community, around Asheboro, around Randolph County. When those questions come up, we can lift up what we're going to be about. So the dollars are designed specifically to address learning loss, to address responses to COVID, but you can see 8 buckets there to the right. The first thing we're doing is we're attacking summer learning. We have numbers of students approaching 1,000. We're really excited about that, actually, who have committed to come to our summer program. Obviously addressing learning loss, technology enhancements, community outreach, accelerated learning. One of the things you'll see in there is that some facility upgrades. So we do hope to address a few HVAC upgrades in 2 of our schools with this money. We want to invest in staff capacity. We're looking at professional development and opportunities to support our staff, which further support learners, and instructional materials and resources. And I won't read this to you, but you can just see what we want to put out there is that these are expectations we have for ourselves. This is how we're holding ourselves accountable for almost $15 million coming directly to us. And by the way, for what it's worth about our team in Asheboro City Schools, I believe the grant was due, Sandra, correct, May 7th maybe? Does that sound right? Okay. We had it in a couple weeks before that, and actually by the time the date came in, we actually had the money in our account. So we were probably one of the leading school districts in the state to go ahead and have that grant submitted and approved and actually have the resources. So we're excited about that. And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Was your money sent directly from the feds or via the state,
To DPI, which then disseminated that out to our...
based on your ADM?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's just a timeline there, and we just, quite frankly, we wanted to showcase that a little bit for you and lift that up, and also give you some talking points as you're out in the community, and folks are maybe asking, what's happening with the school districts where we hear about some additional money coming, and why are they asking for more money if they're already getting federal dollars? But we do have quite a bit of oversight and expectations and so forth with those funds. So the work continues in Asheboro City Schools. We're open for business. We have a bold vision. We're building that collectively, and we're excited about the future. And at the same time, we're conscientious that our students, our staff, our community have been through quite a lot this past year, actually probably 16 months. But again, very, very proud of the work that we've done. So in terms of our budget presentation, thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight as we set out our goals for 2021 and 22. We believe by partnering with public agencies, with our faith-based community, with various community resources, non-for-profits, that we have a better chance of maximizing the opportunity for each and every student in Asheboro City Schools. We are a diverse school district. We serve students of races, all different races, genders, financial background, and it is our goal and our expectation to serve each and every student with our very best so that they can meet their full potential. We are grateful, so very grateful for the support that you have given us, the generosity that you've given us in terms of our capital projects, in terms of our operational resources, and again, very thrilled with the project at Asheboro High School, and I will lift that up in just a few minutes. I know there's not currently a state budget. The governor's put forth something. I think the way this works this year, the Senate actually lifts up a budget first, and there hasn't been much, from my understanding, not much movement there, but we do wait and see how that will play out, and I know you're very much, your fingers on the pulse of all those things that are happening, but from our standpoint, we are grateful. We're grateful for the current increase of $280,000, $174 in current expense appropriation for this school year. We're here tonight asking for an additional $120,000. You can see that in front of you, and $330,000 for our expansion budget. This is a total request of $450,000 in addition to current expense funds. Regarding that, we are expecting increases in state salaries, increased benefit costs for retirement and hospital insurance, and these increases will have an impact on our current expense budget with an estimated increase of $120,000. We've also, in our expansion budget, included, and I appreciate Mr. Johnson lifted up a potential 3% increase for county folks, but we've included a 1% local supplement increase for all of our staff. We do value our staff. We value their hard work, dedication to students. We want to continue to remain competitive in our hiring. Our local current expense budget request is at $6,460,459. Again, we appreciate everything the commissioners do, the continued support to provide the supplemental tax rate, and we ask that it stays the same for the next year. Mr. Massey just lifted this up. It's 14.39 cents per $100. We appreciate that piece. We talk about our capital outlay program. We do have a 10-year capital improvement plan. We're in year 7. You see that in front of you here. Again, the appropriation you've given us is $983,574 in this school year to fund year 6 of year 10. You can see some things here in the next slide will show a better breakdown. But this shows year 7 of the 10-year capital improvement plan as we presented to you in February. And you can see a few things here. I won't talk at length about it, but just like probably every school district, there are things that we need to continually look at. Windows, better efficiency, also leaks. We have work across our district to replace roofs. You can see some HVAC pieces there, some chillers. None of those things are cheap, but having a plan that continues to move forward with that. The projected total cost of all these projects is a little over $1 million, $1,020,000. Other capital needs include equipment, furniture, technology, which would be a total of $210,000. So we're respectfully requesting the following in the capital outlay appropriation for the next school year, and that is basically to stay with what you've given us in the past, $983,574, and that is equal to what you've given us in the past year. This next spreadsheet shows again some further pieces of how each school in our district, as well as the central office, is affected by our remaining years of our 10-year capital improvement plan. And this is just an update that kind of, again, thank you for everything. I know this year we've come to you multiple times with information and with requests and to just follow up with our renovation process. So we are in phase 3. We're fully immersed in it. That renovation is over 190,000 square feet. The idea would be to have, again, bring us up to 21st century infrastructure all throughout the building, ADA compliance, life safety compliance. Our mobile campus, and Mr. McDowell, I know you asked that last month, but if you've driven by, we're really, really close to completion, including a road, including concrete, sidewalks, and so forth, deck areas, safety areas, ramps. We've begun the move-out process. We actually moved our media center and relocated it to our professional development center, which is the area we typically host our board meetings. So that's actually currently the Asheboro High School Media Center, and it will be for the next year or so. We have movers scheduled to be on site beginning next week to move furniture and classrooms and office spaces into those areas. On July 9th, we will actually turn the original building over to J.M. Thompson, our general contractor, and they will begin the renovation work. So as you, and again, we've worked a lot behind the scenes, and you can see it's going to feel like a quick turnaround, but we've been really working towards this for a number of months. And yes, we will have a graduation open to everybody Thursday night. Lord willing, it will be dry, but we're watching the weather and we're paying close attention to that. But that will happen at our stadium at 7 o'clock Thursday evening. And quite frankly, after that, and after our retirement breakfast Friday morning, we start moving all kinds of stuff out to those mobile units. So I just want to give you an update there. You can see again, this is information. This represents the spaces for renovation, areas where life safety and minimal infrastructure pieces will be impacted. On the screen in front of you now, this is just, again, a couple snapshots of our mobile units, plumbing, ramps, concrete. We will have 40 classrooms in all. We will have a cafeteria, and we'll have an administrative building within the mobile campus. And we'll also be utilizing the new space, over 40,000 square feet of our new addition, including areas of what we call our our professional development center, and all that area. Comet Corner is what we call it. It's the old hotel area behind, renovated, but that area behind us. And then we'll have limited access to our Performing Arts Center and so forth. We are in the process of moving our weight room as well, just for what that's worth, from our high school over to South Asheboro Middle School. Asheboro City Schools is committed to each and every student in our district. We're committed to be an exemplary employer within our community. We've aligned our past 2016-2021 strategic plan with the county's strategic plan so that together we can maximize our community's resources in order to better serve students. And as I mentioned, we're in the process of a new 4-year strategic plan that we want to continue to have community input, collaboration, critical thinking around our bold goals and our bold vision to move forward. I want to just, again, thank my team. Thank you for each and everything that you've done for our school district, and thank you for the time tonight to lift up the proposed budget. And certainly I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so what is the policy now, since there is a supplemental tax rate for the city schools? What happens if there is that student that transfers either into the city schools or out of the city schools?
Sandra, any thoughts on that?
Oh,
By the way, we've got a
You
couple
mean
of board
relative to
members
their
here, Ms.
state
Cranford
funding?
and Ms. Kidd.
no, since the county schools do not pay a supplemental, they don't pay a supplemental tax
In
if
the
you're
eight-
in the county. Only if you're in the city school district.
Right.
But through the years, exceptions have been made for students, given daycare situations. The school systems work together. I'm grateful for that. But I'm just asking, somebody asked me this the other day. I know what was done 10 years ago, but I don't know what the policy is now, and I want to be able to answer that question. So what happens if a student comes into the city schools from the county, if there's a transfer for some reason?
So the supplemental taxes are generated based off of property taxes. So that's the amount of funding that we receive.
I can hear you, you're fine.
Probably needs to go on.
If it doesn't follow the student unless they transfer to a charter school, then we get that portion of that supplemental tax.
Okay, now wait a minute, run that by me one more time.
Come up here.
Yeah, come on up
she's
here.
coming.
You might
Yeah,
as
please.
well. Take the stage.
Yeah, we need to use, we do, anyone that comes up, we have folks at home.
Okay.
So it is important for us to speak at the mics.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So the supplemental tax is generated from the property taxes, and that's when we receive our revenue. But if that student were to transfer out of Asheboro City into a charter school that's located within our district, within the Asheboro City Schools District, we have to give a portion of that supplemental tax goes with that student, if the charter school is within Asheboro City Schools District, not if the charter school is located outside. So I don't know that I'm answering your question, but
Okay, so-
when students transfer, we charge a small tuition fee if students transfer into Asheboro City Schools.
If they transfer in, all right.
$250.
If they transfer into a county school, there's no transfer of funds.
Of the funds, no.
Hope, I think,
There may be some state shift in state funding, but
we have a supplemental school tax in Archdale Trinity.
Right, I knew that.
And if a student, and there's a limit, if a student from the county outside the Archdale Trinity defined district comes in, they are assessed the equal property tax. That is their fee for attending the schools.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, then the other question I have for you, Dr. Woody.
ma'am.
You talked about staff development,
Yes.
you know, using these funds for staff development, which, I mean, I think is an excellent idea, but has any conversation taken place about having staff development for teachers from across the county?
So,
Collaboration?
I'm sorry.
No, I just said
Collaboration.
collaboration with staff development. I mean, I don't know if it would work, that's a large number of
Sure.
staff, but,
Yeah, my short answer on that is actually, there's probably a short and a long. The answer would be yes. Dr. Gainey and I meet each week as part of PTEC, Piedmont Triad Education Consortium. I know part of our staff, our instructional staff, talk frequently. I couldn't tell you right now if we have definitive plans in that piece, and there's quite a bit of oversight. But again, I would imagine we're dealing with very similar issues, and there may be some different issues. But from a professional development standpoint in our district, we have some work to do in terms of growing capacity, some things with principals, growing capacity of staff. One of the things that we've learned a lot this year is obviously the remote learning environment and what that looks like. And that's not necessarily going away, so we want to continue as we add infrastructure and digital learning components and technology. We want to grow in that area. There's a lot of work to be done in literacy, early childhood literacy. I know you're not asking me for specifics, so I'm just throwing out a couple things. There's some things at the state level. DPI, Department of Public Instruction, has embraced a concept called the science of reading, and that's to really work with pre-K through third grade students on really becoming literate and proficient in reading by the time they hit third grade. There's a lot of work out of Mississippi, some other places across the country that have employed those ideas. So the state is coming along with those type ideas, And as districts, we're trying to sort out what does that professional development look like. But our team has certainly looked at a variety of development opportunities, programs, resources, and ways that we want to bring all of our folks up together to address this. So yes, we're open, and Dr. Gainey and I have I believe we have a great relationship. He might come up here and say different in a minute. But we have a great relationship, and I think we're very open to working together in a variety of ways to support all of our learners in the county.
I'm a big believer in professional development.
Yeah. And quite frankly, again, and Dr. Gainey, I'm sure will speak to this, one of the things about federal funding with ESSER is you want to try to, as many sustainable things that you can do. Mr. Massey brought that up in his slide. We don't want to build our entire budget around these federal dollars that are kind of a one-time go. So if we can utilize these in ways that are not just attainable but sustainable over time, we want to try to do that. One of the ways to leverage that is through people and some programs that will outlive the 3-year continuum of this grant. So we've tried to work deliberately, and we'll continue to do that with that piece.
Thank you.
Other
Thank
questions? Right.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Woody.
Thank you so much.
We do have 2 new board members, Gidget Kidd and Linda. I'm glad to have y'all tonight to join us. Okay, Dr. Gainey.
Good evening, Commissioners. I appreciate you letting me come to speak to you tonight. And this is the 8th budget I've presented. When you said 7, Mr. Johnson, I did the quick math. And this is my 8th budget, and I'm very proud and very thrilled to represent 15,112 students and 2,302 staff members, as well as multiple communities throughout our county. We're very proud of our communities. We're very proud of our school system, the Randolph County School System. I want to take a minute and I want to recognize some staff members. We've had some change. We've had some transition since last year this time. Our leadership team, Kathy Waddell is now our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction. Andrea Haynes, Assistant Superintendent for HR. Todd Lowe, Finance Officer. And we have Larry Chilton, who is now Executive Director of Facilities Maintenance and Transportation. We have Dale Brinkley, Executive Director of Operations. And with me tonight, we also have Edwina Ashworth, who's Executive Director of Student Services and Driver's Education. Also with us tonight is Tim Moody, our Public Information Officer. So tonight, in the packet you have from me, you have a copy of my PowerPoint and you have a copy of our budget document. Want to point out, just housekeeping-wise, our budget document includes Fund 2, which is current expense, Fund 4, capital outlay, Fund 5, child nutrition, Fund 7, AT tax, and Fund 8, which is state and federal grants. The only things that we don't have in that budget document are Fund 1 state money and Fund 3 federal money. We'd never include that in this document because it seems like it takes a while every year to get that shored up. Tonight I'm going to focus on Fund 2 and Fund 4, current expense and capital outlay, and I can tell you nothing I say tonight is any different from what I shared with you on January 11, 2021 in our joint meeting. Before I get into that, though, I want to speak about our budget process. And what are the themes that carry us through the budget process? You know, I talk to people a lot about this thing called budget and this relationship between a superintendent and board members and county commissioners and a superintendent and county commissioners. And I believe strongly you have to put people in a position where they can be successful. If you come in every year with this budget that no one can begin to address because it's so large, everybody leaves the room unsuccessful. So when we start talking about budget, Todd Lowe and I, it usually starts with us, and we're talking about, can we drive that budget amount, that request down from where it was the year before, or at least make sure we keep it in a reasonable range that makes sense. Similar, reasonable range. That's what we think we're bringing to you tonight. I will tell you, I'll mention it again at the end, our total budget request is the second lowest that I will have presented in the 8 budgets I've presented to you. And it's only $42,000 more than the lowest. So feel good about where we are there. Another thing we talk about is being consistent. If I come in here from one year to the next and I ask you for things and you can't fund them and you never see them again, if I'm in your shoes, I probably feel like that superintendent's on a shopping spree. And did that superintendent really need what he asked for? Or was he just trying to throw it against the wall and see if it would stick? And lastly, which I think, it's whether it's written anywhere or not, it's how I feel in my heart. And a lot of things I do as superintendent are driven by my heart. And it involves 2 words, thank you. When this is over, I ought to be saying thank you to our board members and our commissioners for one of 3 results, because I've seen it happen now. We're either going to get an increase, or you might, because of tough budget constraints, be able to keep us right where we are now. Or we might have a slight decrease. And all 3 of those results require a thank you. So those are the 3 things that drive me when I start talking about a budget for the next year. So let's start talking about what we've got first. I want to talk about the current expense side of the house. When I talk to staff, I say there's 2 sides of the house in budgets. There's current expense, there's capital outlay. So let's talk about current expense first. I will tell you the current expense requests I'm going to present to you tonight, both of them have been in all 8 of the budgets I've presented. What I love about this group of county commissioners is that you get it. You get it. I'm going to present 2 current expense requests. One of them, you could go approve that and miss this first one, continuation cost, and everybody be happy, but we'd walk away with a huge budget cut. Because you understand we have to have continuation costs first. Last year when a lot of people were cut, we got our continuation cost. And it played well for our school system. $551,000 was our request last year. This year it's $518,000. So what's in here? Matching insurance request, increase. We're projecting a 4% increase, $38,000. Matching retirement, we project a 10% increase, $218,000. And a potential salary increase, 2%, $126,000. Now those 3 items pertain to our 210 locally paid employees, which of that 210 includes all of our maintenance of facility guys, because people out there in the public don't realize the state gives us no money for those positions. We have the air running, we have the roofs, we have everything going in these great facilities, but it doesn't come from the state money. Charter school payments, $70,000. We're projecting that we'll lose another 50 students next year. And I always want to make sure I explain, why do you ask for charter school growth money? Well, when we lose kids to the charter school, there's 2 reasons. When we lose them to the charter school, they don't all leave the same school or the same class. But when we lose about 24 students, the state pulls a teaching position from us. Since they didn't come from the same school or the same class, we can't pull that position. We have to absorb it. It's not a dollar for dollar. Okay? The other item is when a child is a homeschool or a private school student and they have one of our addresses and they say, well, I'm not going to homeschool next year. Mom or dad say that, or I'm not going to go to private school. I'm going to the charter. They come by and get state and local money from us we didn't have to begin with for them. So there's another budget cut. And it has been alluded already tonight, by mid-year this year, we had already sent in local money, when we lose a child to a regular charter this year, a brick and mortar charter, this year we lose $1,379 per child out of local money. This year, we, by mid-year, had lost $1,797,000 to charter schools. Okay? $1,483,000 had gone out of the county. Had gone to URI charter, excuse me. $267,526 had gone to charters out of the county. So, we lost $1,797,000 total. Of that money, it's gone to charters. $267,526 had gone out of the county to charters out of the county by mid-year. All right, liability, workers' comp, unemployment. We're projecting all those insurance amounts to go up 3%, $41,000. This year, we pay $948,442 in insurance premiums. The state gives us no money for those premiums. That's all out of local money. And lastly, energy, water, garbage, fuel, we're anticipating a $25,000 increase. So that's where your $518,000 comes from. We have to have that first. If we don't have that first, we have a budget cut right off the bat. So I've always appreciated the way you look at continuation costs. The second current expense request is really near and dear to me, and it's, we're talking about our employees. So let's talk about this, and let me walk you through this. Back in 16-17, some of you remember, we started after our first supplement increase since 2007, and we moved to supplement. We moved at 0.25%, 16-17. We moved at another 0.25%, 17-18. We weren't able to do it in 18-19, but 19-20 we moved it again. We started after a 1% increase in 16-17. We couldn't do it, but we did parts of it. So tonight I come back, $510,000 to supplement increase. Let's finish that 1%. That was for every employee group. We have 8 categories of supplements. That means everybody, if this goes through, everybody gets the extra 0.25%. That would be our principals, our central service staff, our teachers, our lead teachers, our classified employees. Now, if you look down, so 1, 3, and 4 talks about everybody. Everybody getting that 0.25%. Finish that 1% we started after in 16-17. That second bullet, I want to talk about that a little bit because this is probably something that's gone under the radar for years in this state. That second bullet talks about additional increases for classified staff members, directors, central office administrators are directors, supervisors, central office. Let's talk about who classified is. These employees, we're proposing a 0.2 or requesting a 0.25%. That will be an additional one for these individuals. We're talking about bus drivers, custodians, clerical, teacher assistants, maintenance staff, transportation staff. We talked about supervisors and directors. So when people ask me about leadership, who's leading this school system at 5 o'clock in the morning? Who's taking the first leadership roles? The bus drivers. They're the ones whose buses are rolling at 5:15 in the morning. How about the custodians who are in the buildings, opening them up? I used to go as a principal. I entered my building at 6:15 in the morning, and very rarely was I the first person there. I still hear from my head custodian at my last school. He was as important to me as anybody on that staff. And they were all important too, everybody else. So we want to come in with this request, and we want to provide our classified staff with an additional 0.25%. Why? You might say, well, Steve, why are you asking for classified? Let me give you an example. Here's where the classified have been overlooked for years. Classified staff member making $25,000 7 years ago is now making $27,000. A teacher, a bachelor's level teacher with 5 years experience 7 years ago making $30,000 is now making $47,000, and we're happy about that. But you see, there's a disjoint between the classified and the certified. A 10-month assistant principal making $41,000 7 years ago is now making $59,000. And a principal making $55,000 7 years ago is now making $74,000. So those last 3 categories are certified. The classified is that first category, the $2,000 increase. So in that, you see additional increase for classified employees. I'm going to break 2 groups out of that. There are directors and our supervisors. They are classified, but we need to do a little different for them. They wouldn't get the extra 0.25. Instead, we're proposing that a director would get $300 per month extra, and a supervisor would get $150 per month extra. What's the rationale behind that? Well, as time goes on, if you look in our budget book, the state has continually cut central office personnel. They'll send you the message that we don't need a central office. And my response is, well, are we going to have 31 schools doing HR any old way? Do we not need a central site to do HR? Are all 31 schools going to do their own finance and payroll? Do we not need a central site to do that? Then you get in the curriculum side. You know, we were talking about staff development. Do we not need some kind of centralized organization to help plan that and help guide? We do. If you look in our budget book, you'll see an example of how the state has cut central office staff. In our budget, we have $662,000 for supervisor and director positions. And that supplements what the state gives us in the O2 money, because they don't give us enough to cover our positions. So we're asking supervisors and directors to get this special additional supplement. Director, $300 per month. Supervisors, $150 a month. Now, I'll give you an example. A bachelor's level teacher. And look, I want teachers, I want principals, assistant principals to make everything we can get them. But there is a disjoint here between what's happening. A 15-year bachelor level teacher makes $5,000 a month. The starting salary for a supervisor at central office is $3,036 a month. And there may be a time when that supervisor is giving direction to that teacher, probably very likely. The starting salary for a director at central office is $4,065 a month. So we've got a disjoint. The last two people that I brought down to central office, we needed them in central office. We needed them. Great, great principals. One took a $7,500 pay cut to take on a big role in central office. Another one took a $3,800 pay cut. So we need some help here. We've got to start. Todd Lowe came to me back in the middle of the year and said, this is the time we need to start doing what we can do to mitigate this issue. So I want to be real clear. This request, everybody would get the 0.25% and finish the 1%. We started, I think, Mr. Allen, you were on the board then, 16, 17. And then we would go into classified, and if you weren't a supervisor or director, you get another 0.25%. If you were a supervisor, you got $150 per month, or if you're a director, you got an extra $300 per month. So that current expense request is pretty near and dear to me. Obviously, we need the first one to get to the second one, and I appreciate the fact that you guys understand our budget as good as we do, because you understand where the continuation cost role is. So in summary, with our current expense request, $1,028,000. That's our second lowest current expense request in 8 years, and it's only $42,000 more than the lowest one in 8 years. I want to go to the other side of the house for a minute, capital outlay request. This is, again, another one of those cases of bringing it back, staying consistent. I look out there and I see Larry Chilton and Dale Brinkley. And they're kind of tag teaming operations and facilities and tag teaming working on that new school, which is absolutely beautiful. But because of the team that they lead and the great work by that team and by our board members and by you, we received extra money for our 9-year plan in 14, 15, and 15, 16. And then we went 3 years and didn't ask for any additional money. But we got to 1920, we saw costs were catching up with us and costs were increasing, and we needed to put some more money towards the 9-year plan. In 1920, we asked for $200,000 extra. You were able to give us $100,000. So this $100,000 right here for capital outlay is just to, let's finish the deal. Let's finish that $200,000 we went after in 1920. So you see our total request is $1,128,000. That will go a long way for our school system. That total request, again, is the second lowest out of 8 budgets. Total request. $42,000 higher than the lowest. We've worked to continue to push our budget request as low as we can every year. And I think, my first year, total request was $2.071 million out the door, current and capital outlay. And you've helped us push it down. As you've helped us with stuff, we've been able to push it down. I feel like we've stuck to the plan, and that plan's been one based on trust and transparency. But I also will tell you, every now and then, I heard Dr. Woody say, well, you're asking for money. This is a big business. $868,525. You know what that represents? The cost of one day of school in the Randolph County school system. One student day. $57,446. One day of lunch in the Randolph County school system. This is a big business that you guys help us with every year. You do whatever you can to help us. But just like the facility maintenance guys out there, nothing thrills me more. I love seeing classrooms. I love seeing principals interact with their staff and their students, and classrooms, vibrant classrooms. But I also love seeing maintenance guys go up and down the road, headed to schools, do what they need to keep the environments right. I love seeing those yellow buses ride and those bus drivers doing everything they can on that bus to take care of kids, whether it's dry outside, raining outside, or getting ready to be snow. And you got these custodians out here doing everything they can to keep the schools where they need to be. And if anybody's been pressed, these groups have been pressed. And let's don't forget the teacher assistants. Because you get in that classroom, and there's 20-plus kids in that classroom, and that teacher needs that teacher assistant to help build relationships with kids and help support. So in closing, I just want to remind you what you have seen tonight is nothing different from January 11. We're going to continue to press forward. We're going to press forward in building, maintaining, continue to develop what I consider a very positive relationship with friends of the Randolph County school system, which is our commissioners. And it's a relationship that I hope you feel the way I feel. I feel it's one based on trust and transparency. And I can promise you whatever you give us, we're going to use it wisely, and we're only going to ask you for what we need. So very proud of this budget request. But as I was talking to you before we started the meeting, as proud as I am of this budget request, I'm very proud of the conversations I get to have other places about the fact that I get to talk to 5 commissioners whenever we need to talk to them. And it's not an adversarial conversation. It's a mentor conversation. It's a friend conversation. We had a great time at the school the other day walking around that new school. It's going to be a great time in August when that thing opens. And you guys had a part in it. Our board had a part in it. It's just exciting. So I'll answer any questions you have, but that's my presentation for tonight.
Dr. Gainey, have y'all reached, an agreement with the AT tax board on what contribution they're making to the new middle school?
At this time, I don't know what their process is. We're moving forward everything we need to do for the school, but they've not shared that information with me yet.
Did they request a tax increase?
I think theirs was flat. Theirs was the same, wasn't it, Will? They did
Same
not
one.
increase because they're keeping their budget right where it was.
Well, I was thinking, Mr. Cable told me they were going to go back to where it was before reval.
I did not see that, Will. It stayed on the same budget. It stayed on the same tax rate.
Because I think that was sort of a round number, but
Yeah.
that's. And I would say to you and to Dr. Woody and your board members, staff and all here, I really commend you for keeping our kids in school every day that was possible. I know it was a working process, but I think Randolph County and Asheboro did a better job than most of maximizing in-class studies as much as we can. And I thank you for doing that, and the board members that had the ability to say, yes, we're going to do that. And I commend you for that.
Well, and I'll tell you, that happened because of the belief of three groups: staff, students, and parents. And, you know, community members were with us, but the parents stayed with us the whole time. We knew information all year long, a lot of times before even the health department did, because it has to cycle through the health department from the doctor's offices. But we would have information we were able to stay out in front of some things to prevent other developments in our schools. But it'll be a year I'll never forget. And it's not because of the pandemic. It's because of the commitment to teamwork that I saw this county engage in to have school. They sent a real clear message, which I already had for 7 years, but if it needed any reinforcement, it got quadrupled, if not more, that this county wanted their kids in school, and they were going to do whatever it took to get them in school and keep them there. So I will never forget what I've witnessed this year from all the groups.
When I presented to Faree at Trinity High School, and I know Ms. Cranford here has been a big part of this about as long as I have. And we've never seen anything like this, and it was a working process. It was changing on the run daily almost, for kids, for parents, for you. Quick decisions, hoping they were the right ones, and I think generally they were the right ones. But never before have we seen anything, and I hope we never see it again.
Well, I'll bet you that staff members have my email memorized now, that they learned when there was something to hit a campus. And I'll bet you a lot of parents have the voicemail message memorized by now. But, you know, we did what we had to do, you know, and we did whatever it took. And
We dealt with a lot of issues, but nothing like that.
no.
And I said up there, no teacher at the highest level of education they achieved was ever had a class on how to teach during a pandemic. But they did it.
Yeah, they did.
And y'all did it. You saw that they were there as every day possible, and I think that's commendable.
And Mr. Fry, one of the things that I will forever respect is that I knew we had staff members who were anxious about going back to school. But when it came down to it, they went back because our business is kids. And that's what was there, taking care of kids. And so, you know, we tried to honor the anxiety of everybody. You know, some people were more anxious about it than others, but what we kept focused on was everybody wanted to take care of kids. And that was huge.
Thank you. Anybody have questions or comments tonight for Dr. Greene? Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us, both of you. Okay, Dr. Shackelford, you're back in cleanup.
Commissioners, it's so good to be before you again. I was sitting there thinking about what Dr. Greene said. This is my 15th presentation to you. I remember the first night I was trembling in my boots, and I thought these are the big guns here, and I was trembling in my boots. And as I've gotten to know you through the years, and I've gotten to know you well, and I've gotten to know not only what you have to deal with as I come and what you do business every month, but where your heart is and your care for the community and your commitment to education. And I actually look forward to these meetings. Now, I look forward to coming and sharing with you what we're doing and how we're trying to be of value to you and the community. I want to say also, before I get started, that, well, let me mention, before I say that, let me mention I have my senior leadership team here, and I think you know most of them, but I work with this team every day, and they're great. And one of the things I love about my job is the people I get to work with. Starting to my left here, Daffy Garris, who is the Vice President for Administrative Services. That's budget, IT, it's the business office, the auxiliary services, a lot of responsibilities. Next to her, Suzanne Rohrbaugh, my Vice President for Instructional Services. She's over all the faculty, all the academic programs, the curriculum programs, the degrees, the library, the Archdale Center, all those things. She has a very big job. Right next to her is Shelly Greene, who's my Vice President for Institutional Advancement. She's over marketing. She's over our information and research and statistics. She is over the foundation, and she is over SACS, which is our accrediting agency, making sure we do things right and stay in business. And then next to her is Elbert Lassiter. Y'all have known Elbert a long time. Elbert is my Vice President for Workforce Development and Continuing Education. He's over the Small Business Center. He's over the short-term classes. We have people who say, I don't want somebody with a degree in 2 years. I need somebody that can do this in 4 months. Let me give you Elbert's number. That he handles all of that manufacturing training like that. And he is also over customized training. I don't know if you understand what that is, but that is training we do free for existing industries to help them with people they are in the process of hiring or people they've hired that they want to upgrade to a new program in their equipment. And we offer that free to industries in the county. And all of that comes under Elbert. And then beside him is Chad Williams. He's Vice President for Student Services, which means he's over admissions, transcripts, financial aid, counseling, student life, student discipline. He's over all that to do with students. And this team goes above and beyond every day, and I can truly say that they come to work every day, not just to punch a clock and get a check, but they come to work every day to create opportunities and change lives. And it is a pleasure and a blessing on my part to get to work with them. I appreciate them being here to support this presentation tonight. I also want to say, before I begin my actual report, a comment about Dr. Woody and Dr. Gainey. I'm always inspired by when they get up and share the work they're doing. They're professional colleagues that I highly respect, but they're also friends that I highly value. And I don't know, I can only speak for the last 25 years or so that I've had to do with Randolph County, Randolph Community College. But we have the best team between our public schools and our community college that I've ever seen in my time here. And I trust those men and their staffs. And I think they trust me, and we're all on the same page. So whatever you can do for them and their requests, I strongly support it because they're doing a great job for our young people. Well, when I stand here tonight, it seems to me that one of the questions that you would be asking, first of all, would be how we have succeeded in a pandemic year. We have not furloughed anybody. We've not turned students away. We've not closed school. How have we done this? You say, well, you got that CARES money. And that is how we have been able to do what we've done. that federal CARES money has saved hospitals and schools and other businesses as well. But what does that money go for? Does that mean that, well, you don't need anything from the county, you got all that CARES money? Well, we're audited on what we spend that CARES money on. But I want to tell you a little bit about what we've been able to do with that CARES money, because I'm very proud of our staff for what we've done. Now, this is in a year of a pandemic. And people going out of business and losing their jobs and everything else. We have provided direct aid to students. I mean direct aid. We have, because so much of our instruction went online back in March, right in the middle of a semester, we had many students who had never taken an online class. We have faculty who never taught an online class. How do you tell a welding instructor, well, you're going to start teaching online next week? Or an automotive instructor? Or a computer integrated machining instructor? So we have students who are very comfortable, and a lot of that credit goes to the public schools because they've been working online in classes and with computers. But we have a lot of students at RCC who don't have the kind of equipment at home. They don't have computers, or they have a computer that's so old they couldn't even download their assignments, or they don't have a printer. They don't have Wi-Fi access. They can't afford it. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of students. We have given them laptops this year. We have paid Wi-Fi bills to keep students plugged in so they could do their work. And what we did, we've had 3 kinds of classes. Basically, this is oversimplifying it, but we've had some online classes, like some of your lecture classes, like sociology or history. That's not hard to teach online, and some students had been doing that. Then we've had some classes that were taught where you come to class, and you'll remember that the governor gave permission that those things like health care and law enforcement and things like that were high priority, we could not shut them down. And so we had permission to bring them, but we had to do the physical separating and the mask and that kind of thing. So we still taught our BLET classes, we still taught our EMT classes, our nursing classes, and all of that. But speaking of the nursing classes, our third kind of classes, we had in-class classes, we had online classes, and we also had hybrid classes where the lecture part is online, and then you come in for the labs, like our medical programs. You can teach course content material online, but you still got to come in and do the clinical part. And so we had all of that going on. But a lot of students, without our help, would have been just totally unplugged. I just have to quit. I don't have a computer. I don't have a printer. I don't have Wi-Fi. We gave a lot of students cash. We could not pay their tuition with it. You could not do that with this federal money. But a lot of them paid their tuition themselves with money they received. But they paid for child care. They paid for transportation. They paid for living expenses in a time when many of them lost their jobs or their parents lost their jobs. And so altogether, we gave over $1 million directly to students this year to help cover their living expenses when they're out of work and to help cover their access to online education at RCC. We hired success coaches to work with retaining students. We have some new software that we've had for the last 3 years. We got through a grant, and now we're having to pick it up. But we were very successful with success coaches. And these coaches are working with high school students to help guide them through any questions they have. My son, for example, attended Providence Grove High School his junior year and took 2 courses at Providence Grove and 2 courses at RCC, which you can do in the 11th grade. And so he had a success coach. If you have any questions, if you have any problems, if this format, this new online stuff is confusing, ask me, stay in touch. And so we had success coaches to work with retaining students. If any student ran into difficulty, we had somebody to answer the phone and work with them. We hired a health coaching firm for students, health coaching, to help students who were dealing with things such as diabetes, obesity, heart conditions, thyroid conditions, high blood pressure. So a health coaching firm to help students with their medication, with students who want to stop smoking. They feel like it's ruining their health. So we've got a health coaching partner now to provide health coaching for our students. Beyond that, we've signed an agreement with the Student Assistance Program. You've heard of EAPs, Employee Assistance Programs. That's where you provide, the college provides a group of professional counselors that the staff can go to free of charge, and they can go confidentially. So from anything from money problems to marital problems to mental health issues to whatever. Well, we started an SAP. We're doing that for students. Are you having problems that you need to talk to someone confidentially about? Are things difficult at home? Are you not getting support? Or they've got somewhere to turn? We've signed an agreement for that. We upgraded our distance ed tools, including testing, proctoring, one-on-one. That's a funny thing. When SACS came, our accrediting agency, one of the questions they had is, how do you know who's taking a test in an online class? And we were kind of like, well, we hadn't had any problem. And they said, we want to see how you're doing it. Well, we have some upgraded distance education tools. If SAC shows up today and asks, how do you know who's taking a test in an online course, we can tell them. So we're up to speed on that. We bought new software for converting hands-on classes to online classes. A lot of it has to do with software that's user-friendly. How well a student does in an online class. A lot of it is, how user-friendly is this? Is this complicated and difficult, or does it make sense how you navigate through this class? We've upgraded classroom technology to teach both in person and distance. We've contracted with the sanitation company for the first few months. We didn't tell our housekeepers, y'all just do more deep cleaning every day, just work twice as hard and twice as fast. We hired a company to come in when people were wondering, is this a safe campus? Our housekeepers are still cleaning and emptying the trash cans and washing the sinks and mopping the floors, but we had another group of people who came in and walked around campus all day with sanitizers, wiping doorknobs, going into every classroom that students leave and wipe off the keyboards with sanitizers, in addition to our housekeepers. We purchased PPE and sanitizing cleaners and utilized cleaning protocols using new technology. One thing that was important was that we enhanced modifications in filtration and ionization and fresh air supply to deter, reduce, or kill unhealthy spores in our buildings. And you know, you've heard me say before, we've got some HVAC products that are 30, 35, 40 years old. And I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to crawl through the vents in a Sunday suit. And this is a good time that we were allowed to use our CARES funds to provide clean, healthy air for our students to have a safe environment. And that in itself, I mean, the HVAC that we were able to use, which came off on our county budget, our deferred maintenance, we were able to use about $600,000 of COVID funds, CARES funds, to help upgrade our HVAC system, which has been on our list with y'all forever that we've needed to do, so that helped us. And took some of the pressure off me asking for that every time. And we bought security software that we could not have afforded. You know, you're hearing about software security these days. There have been 4 community colleges in North Carolina shut down over ransomware. 4, including CPCC in Charlotte was hit big time. But this is such a big thing, we've had to pay more to hire expertise in cybersecurity. We can't afford to be shut down. We can't afford to skip classes and then meet with the lawyers. Do we pay this? Do we go to our insurance? How do we get, what do we do? So we have paid extra for security software that we could not have afforded. So from that CARES Act money, we have really spent about $1 million directly to students and about $1 million on things at the college like software, cybersecurity, HVAC, things that we could not have bought out of our budget. So that's how we made it through the pandemic without furloughing anybody, without canceling school, canceling classes. We have used that money strategically to keep us in business and keep us serving students. But that leaves some things that we could not cover out of our CARES Act money. And this is why I come before you tonight still needing to have a budget request for our college. Continued increases, and you hear this every year, in things that we have no control over, like health care and retirement benefits. Health care, we usually goes up more than they say, and they're already saying 5%. Retirement usually goes up more than they say, they're already saying 11%. So when you take hundreds of employees and kick up retirement and health care by at least 16%, that's an increase that I have no control over. Insurance, and we've had to add cybersecurity insurance. So if we were to get hit in the worst situation where they really locked us down, and they've got $1 million demand, if you don't have insurance, you're locked down. So we've had to buy cybersecurity insurance. And utility bills. These generally go up, and as we add space for our instructional needs, we have more square footage, and that takes more utilities. We need to remain competitive to keep our employees, and therefore we need to give raises. We have made this a priority with the state legislature. We have county employees also, a good number of county employees. All of our maintenance staff, all of our housekeeping staff, our outside yard keepers, all of these are county staff. Well, we need to remain competitive. We are the third largest community college system in America. But generally regarding, and I'm saying this not from just a point of pride of being a part of this system, you go to national meetings and North Carolina is regarded as the sparkle in the diamond. Everybody wants to be North Carolina. We're the third largest, but generally considered the best. Yet in salaries, we're in the bottom 10. So you take whoever you think might have low salaries. I won't name any states because somebody out here is from there. I'm not going to get into that. But just think, we're the third largest in the country, considered the best, and we're in the bottom 10 in salaries. You say, well, maybe that's just whiny people want more money. Well, I would take a different position. It's people who are doing the job of working with our students because of the passion in their heart to meet students where they are and carry them as far as they can go when they can make a lot of money somewhere else. And I mean that. Since January, I think we've lost 5 people in our IT department. If you're real good in IT, you don't have to work for what we can pay. And most of those who leave will come. I've had them in tears in my office for their exit interview saying, I love RCC, and I love what this school is about, and I love the culture we have, and I love our mission. But my wife and I are going to start a family, and I've been offered a job making more than double what I make here, and I just can't say no. I've had 5 since January. We have the same issue in our faculty. I think probably most of our faculty could leave and get another job in the industry. I mean, think about someone with credentials to teach chemistry and physics, what they can make out here in industry. Where we have a real problem that's very visible, as an example, is nursing. They can make as much in one day at the hospital as they can make in 2.5 to 3 days with us. And so, and I've told you the story. One year, the week after graduation, I lost 3 nurses. Graduated, and before the week was over, had lost 3 nurses. 2 went to a university, and 1 went to a big hospital. They all doubled their salaries. We have a nursing position. If you look at our personnel report, at our board meetings, and it has positions that we're actively searching for. Suzanne, when's the last time a nurse wasn't on that list? Not since you've been here, I don't think. Really, years and years. We have an opening need for nursing faculty all the time and do everything we can to try to keep the ones we have. We say, well, you don't have to do that shift work. You don't have to work nights and holidays. And would you give it a thought? Would you come give it a try? But my goodness, in bonuses these days, the nursing, they're giving bonuses the size of our salaries. And it's hard to compete and keep it full. And then one thing we have argued about was, but you get great benefits with the state. Well, so what are they arguing about over in Raleigh right now? They want to start this year, saying if you start to work at the community college this year, you do not get to keep insurance after you retire. You can go get your own. That's been one of the things we've used as a selling point. We can't pay you the salary, but let me tell you about our great benefits. And now they're getting ready to take that away. They're fighting about it over in Raleigh right now, but the The tides are moving. And then we need an additional housekeeping position. Since I came here, we've added approximately 150,000 square feet with the CEIC and the Petty Building, the new Allied Health Center, the new Welcome Center, the Cosmetology Center. These are all much needed. They're providing services that are putting students to work. But you know how we're filling the housekeeping? We don't hire a couple of housekeepers every time we add a building. We rotate and juggle. We take a couple people out of maintenance and say, how about going clean up that building tonight? We don't have anybody. And so we're juggling maintenance people with our housekeepers, trying to keep the classrooms and the hallways and the buildings in shape that we look like a college that's not been neglected. And so we have to reassign to cover all of that. So what this shows you is that even with all the things we were able to do with the COVID money to stay in business and to serve our students and serve our community and keep putting our students to work, and I could give you great success stories. I wish I could show you some of the emails I get from students who say, I'm so excited about the job I got. Thank you, RCC. I get those all the time. But there are still needs we have, and there's just a short list of things like health care, retirement benefits, insurance, cybersecurity, insurance, utility bills, raises for our county employees, and we desperately need an additional housekeeping position so we don't keep taking maintenance people off of their assignment to go do housekeeping duties. And so what it comes down to is if you add everything together, we're asking for a 7.75% increase, and that's $203,000. $203,000. And we try to do all we can to keep these expenses down, like I'm going to talk about utility bills. The first LEED certified building in this county was our CEIC, and it's gold LEED. And the second LEED certified building in this county is the new Allied Health Center, and it's silver LEED. And what LEED means is you're not burning up energy at the same pace as a regular building. You have found ways to go green and save energy and spend less on utilities. Good for you. There are not but two of those buildings in the county. They're the last two buildings that we built. So we're doing everything we can to keep expenses down. I'm very proud of our faculty and staff. What a great job they've done this year to serve our students. And their raises, they went 2 years without a raise, and then they got a 1% raise right before that, and a 2% raise right before that. So in 5 years, they got 3%. And they keep coming back. They keep coming back because they believe in what we're doing. We're not like an Ivy League university that says, we're here. If you can reach us, we'll save you a seat. We go to students where they are, and we meet them where they are. If they're unemployed, if they're underemployed, if it's a single mother with 2 or 3 children, if it's somebody who's just recently widowed, if it's somebody who's disabled, if it's somebody that's been out of school 20 years and they're just having a hard time paying the bills, you don't have to meet us here to get a seat. We'll meet you where you are, and we'll give you a chance. And we're going to pull together all the firepower we can with success coaches and a student assistance program and health coaches. And we're going to do everything we can do to help you succeed. You don't have a computer? Let us help you. You can't afford Wi-Fi? Let us help you. We'll meet you where you are, and we're going to carry you as far as you could possibly go. That's my passion every morning when I get out of the car, that we get to do that. That we get to meet them right where they are and take students who didn't even think they could ever go to college. And they find themselves sitting in our classes and doing things they never dreamed of and getting their degrees, and their families hollering and cheering and thinking, well, I didn't know you could do it. And just a couple weeks ago, we had students, and by the way, we teach 22 languages in our ESL program in Randolph County. Teach English to people who speak 22 languages. And just a couple weeks ago, we had a graduation ceremony where 6 of our students who were in our ESL program put in, I believe it was 15 consecutive Saturdays. They spent half the day learning English and half the day learning citizenship. And all 6 passed the test at RCC, the citizenship test. But then they have to go to Charlotte and pass the national citizenship test. And all 6 of our students became U.S. citizens and passed that citizenship test. We're creating opportunities. We're changing lives. And out of those 6, some of them are coming on to college. Right now, some of them are coming into the GED program. One I know is already starting into our curriculum program. Now a U.S. citizen college student. And a month or 2 ago, they were in an ESL class trying to figure out how to speak English. I'm excited about what we do. I believe you are, and I thank you for your support and everything we've done. I know we could not have done without your support. But all it takes is for me to look at a picture like that. I say, let's get up and do it again tomorrow. Let's do it one more time. Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation. I could go on and on. You might think I'm a preacher or something, so why don't we just stop and ask any questions?
How's the Allied Health Center? What kind of enrollment and graduation do you have there? And I guess, and at what level?
Well, we will be in there full time in the fall. We're planning on having a grand opening for the community this summer since we couldn't do we were planning on a ribbon cutting back in the spring. But what is in there now, we have like our medical students who are coming in there now for the clinical part. I see they're doing some of their teaching online. They're coming in there. It is, so if you go there certain times of the day, you'll see the EMS students working in their part. You'll see the nursing students in the labs. You'll see the radiography students, the medical assisting students working with the mannequins and doing all the hands-on stuff. But you'll see there'll be more traffic in there this summer and even more this fall. Suzanne, anything you want to add to clarify that?
We are utilizing that space and are grateful to have it every single day. The technology in there is state of the art. Our students have plenty of spaces and access to what they need in that building. So, it's just been a blessing for us, especially during this past year. So, thank you for your support of that.
The space and the equipment in there have allowed us to really step up.
One other quick, to what extent are you in class learning, or still virtual, or combinations, or?
Well, we had more students this spring on campus than we had in the fall. We think we'll have a larger percentage, not more students, but a larger percentage this summer. And fall, we plan to be virtually normal. We plan to be about like we were before the pandemic. It depends on the program, though, to answer your question. We still have the online classes, and we have the hands-on classes. We have more people coming back to hands-on classes. We have the welding classes going now, and the automotive and those kind of things. But we're still doing some of our lecture classes online, but we are transitioning this summer and plan to be pretty much wide open in the fall.
Questions, comments, everybody?
I've got a comment and a question. You've got a great staff here. Know most of these guys, and they're great people. And just a superlative bunch of folks for Randolph County. My question is, what do you do?
I go to commissioners' meetings and Rotary meetings. I've been asked that before. I was asked that at a Rotary meeting one time. I introduced them and told what they all did, and somebody out in back said, well, what do you do? I said, I go to Rotary meetings. But they are a great team. And they're not just great individually, they're a great team. And that's what allows us to do the things that we do. And I'll never forgive you for asking that in public. Any other questions?
Other comments? Thank you, Dr. Shackford. Good to have you with
Thank
us.
you,
And
Mr.
those
Chairman.
folks that joined us tonight, and your role in giving us a wonderful community college here in Randolph County. So, any other business, questions for this board tonight? So we will have our regular June County Commissioners meeting next Monday night, which is the latest we can have the first Monday on the 7th. So I think about as long, it'll be 5 weeks since we had a commissioners meeting, official commissioners meeting. So we don't often have that spread, but the way the calendar worked out this time, a lot of space in between. Thank all of you for your participation, not just tonight, but everything you do every day to serve the citizens of this county. And we're grateful to have you here and appreciate the participation. All three of you have mentioned tonight the cooperation and participation that we have, and I think that more than any county, we have a singleness of purpose here to serve the citizens of the county at all these levels and all of our departments. So we thank you for making that possible and working with us. Any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank all of you. Be safe.